Okay.
Ready, YouTube. So we are live with YouTube Through a Therapist's Eyes, episode 239 on August the 3rd. Second, third. This is the third.
Today's the third.
Third.
Today's
It's
my
the
wedding
third.
anniversary.
Happy wedding anniversary, madam.
Thanks.
Very cool. I
4
love
years.
that.
4 years. Congratulations.
Almost 9 total.
Wow. Good deal. Good
Yeah.
deal. We're talking about a crazy topic today.
We are.
You want to say it out loud?
We're talking about menopause normalized.
All right. She said it normal. I thought you were going to go crazy about the men part. Anyway.
No.
Yes.
Men.
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 Menopause.
Oh, pause.
Always about men.
I tell
It
you,
is.
it
Problems
is.
is
They're the
always
root.
about
They're the
men.
root
Always-
cause
they're
of
the-
all female problems.
See, that's what needs to come out on a live
Mm-hmm.
recording.
Yeah.
This is the YouTube part before the live recording here on Star
I will repeat myself.
Podcast and Apple iTunes and all the places you get your podcasts. So we get to interact before we turn the mics on. You see us kind of goofing around, and it's a good way to interact with us, though, live as a part of the show that we typically do Thursdays at 6:15 to 6:20, 6:40 maybe sometimes. We're gonna get early one day.
One day.
We're gonna go 6:10 one day.
You know what my husband posted on Instagram for our wedding anniversary? He posted a picture from our wedding
What
and
did he
said,
post?
and his caption was, "We haven't taken a good picture since 4 years ago."
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
Or a good picture together since 4 years ago. And
Ouch.
it's probably true. It's probably right. We don't take good pictures together.
show questions are: do you really know what is menopause? Do you know when and how does menopause occur, and how do menopause affect my life? I thought those are pretty broad questions, but
Yeah.
that's what we're going for today, man. I have actually.
That's why you have 2 men in here
Yeah,
instead
I know.
of 1 woman.
I know.
The ratio is off. And
I
technically
know.
it's 3-1 because
Neil's
stayed
here.
back.
Oh, yeah,
Neil's
Neil.
here. I mean, it's interesting. We'll go into the show though, John, because I have heard women have said when I work with this in therapy, because I've actually identified this as a significant clinical issue, and they're like, "You seem to know more about what the heck this is than my doctor has told me," and that's sad.
It is. Yeah.
But I could see that as true.
Yeah, I can.
Well, that's assumed to be a part of menopause. Yeah, pre-menopause for sure.
Okay, let's get this show on the road.
Yeah, man, we're ready to rock and roll.
Ready? All right. You got your phone ready to record, set your timer?
I did not, thank you.
I think it was last like 2 weeks ago. You were like, how long? Yeah. Ready? 3, 2.
Hello, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes on August the 3rd, 2023. Mr. Jack Pope. Where did Jack Pope? You know where it came from? I'm watching Jack Ryan right now, man.
Ooh!
Yeah.
Ooh!
You love Jack Ryan?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's been a great
Yeah.
show. I'm well into the last season. Super sad that I've only got like 4 more episodes to go. So he
So-
became Jack Ryan.
If you think of me as Jack Ryan, I take
Is
that
that
as
a
a compliment.
I
Yeah,
was
this is
about
a
to say,
major
this is a pretty big compliment.
No, he is Mr. John Pope hanging out with us over there. How are you, sir?
I am doing just fine, thank you.
And Miss Pendergrass over there, Miss
Yes.
Victoria. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good.
All right. So this is Through a Therapist's Eyes, where you get personal insights, and information from the panel of therapists here in your car or personal time at home, knowing it's not delivery of therapy services in any way. Episode 239 is today, and we are going to be talking about menopause, actually. I'm really excited about this topic. You see the title, Menopause Normalized. And I know I've got a lot of thoughts about this, and I think that you're going to be. Hopefully, this is one of our more listened to shows, man. If send this to anybody that is a woman, because I think this is a topic that is just not talked about, needs to be talked about on a national and worldwide level, because it is just so misunderstood and not and very impactful. Those are some bold statements I'll take out to the woodshed right now with you. 5 stars on Apple reviews, Spotify, all that stuff really helps us. We have contact at throughatherapisteyes.com is where you want to contact us and interact with us. Please don't give us any hate mail today, because I know this is an edgy topic that's got a lot of emotions wrapped up in it. Wouldn't you say, John?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of emotions Victoria, of which, as a woman that's younger, I want to maybe pop you to see when you see and hear and think of the topic menopause. What is your first emotion?
That men are the root cause
Oh.
of all the pain that women go through. It's in the name.
You did this to me.
Menopause, menstrual cycle.
Men, dang those men. I was asking a serious question. You went goofy.
Yep, sorry.
That's okay.
But
That's
what's
okay.
my first thought? Like,
Your first emotion and all?
I guess a lot of it would be unknown. I mean,
Unknown. Confused.
Yeah, confused.
Yeah.
You know, not
What the heck
well
does that even mean?
informed. Yeah.
Oh, worry about that in 30 years.
That seriously, that's
Yeah.
what I write. I mean, as someone who is almost 30, like,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, well, we don't need to talk about it because you're not experiencing it anytime soon.
Yeah.
I'm
Wow.
like, okay,
Right.
well.
Right. This is the human emotional experience which we do endeavor to figure out together. Questions for the show. Do you really know what menopause is? When and how does menopause occur? And how can menopause affect my life? Really is a pretty big and broad and dynamic question, I think, honestly.
I feel like I'm going to learn more today than,
Yeah?
than
Seriously?
anybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
As the only female in the room.
Isn't that something? Like, I don't understand
Yeah.
how that's possible, Victoria. I don't.
I mean, I
Like,
do, but it's,
it's a shame, I think, is what
Yeah.
I'm coming out with. Like,
well,
this should be known to women about, like, what goes on with our body and sort of what to expect in how your body's likely to progress. And I just don't think that
Yeah.
we've done a good
I don't
job,
know.
mother to daughter or doctor to person.
or
in
just
this.
or just woman to woman or anything. I didn't get a chance to do it, but I meant to reach out to like my mom and other female people
Yeah.
in my life that to see what their experience was like with their friend groups and whether or not they, talked about it or if they kept it to themselves. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to do that.
Well,
but
I love
That'd be
that.
a good doctoral dissertation for you to do that.
Shoot,
I'm always
yeah.
thinking about that.
Really?
Because you
That's-
could
Wow.
do a qualitative study.
that is a hardcore no for me. I thank you though. We can give that to another doctoral candidate, but
But seriously, that.
I mean that would be a good.
Go a little further with that, John. Why do you say that? Because, Victoria, what I love about what you're saying right there sets up part of the reality of the emotional here that I find people don't have that question answered or have that conversation. And the
Yeah.
challenge I would give to you in the audience right now about this topic of menopause is to do exactly what Victoria said that she intends to do. And I
With the
submit
friend groups.
with the friend groups, with the mothers, with the aunts, with the people that you have in your circles. Like, have this conversation, bring the topic up. That is something that's not done, leaving us isolated alone by ourselves with the issue of menopause. That's not cool. Like, I want to change that. So, go a little further, John, with a doctorate dissertation. Like, what
Well,
would be cool about that?
Well, you could wait until you're a little bit older, and then you'd have the lived experience of menopause. But instead, I think it would be better if you were to do a study where you could get groups, particularly friend groups, or have it diverse, or you could just drill down to a group of, let's say, similar people with similar backgrounds, and be able to do a study on that, talk about what their experiences are,
like
what
what
they were
information
feeling,
is shared,
what they did, what are the myths, that sort of thing, and you could just explore that, and you get some themes out of there, and with the themes, then you would be able to say, well, this is some knowledge that we have, and it's generalizable to a larger group of people, a larger group of women, and that women could say, aha, this is who I am. This is part of my experience, my lived experience.
I just do not understand why this hasn't happened a whole lot more, John. Part of the genesis of this show was done, like, I have been thinking about this clinically in my work, and as I am in midlife, personally kind of as well, as a little bit of a topic, given that I was completely unawares of all of that goes on with this. But, in in my professional life, I have found so many manifestations of these realities in the lives of people that I work with. But honestly, I'm going to come clean. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not ashamed to say I have been straight up unfreaking comfortable, straight up likely to say fearful about doing this topic. Okay?
Yeah.
That's the reality of
Well,
it.
I wouldn't have done it if I
Right?
had a choice.
Hey,
That's
John didn't find out of the topic until he walked in this room today. So
what?
It's what he said. Right?
I at
Right.
least
And-
had a day heads up.
And isn't that a funny feeling that we have about that? I am episode 239, and I have refused to talk about this topic because of uncomfortability in raising it. Now, I do it individually with people through my office pretty regularly now and easily. I'm not
Yeah.
a shame and ambassador, but this is a worldwide podcast, right? So this was done honestly because I saw a show on the New York Times podcast that said menopause has its moment. And it was just this last Friday. And honestly, this is the second time I have seen the topic for any length of a serious mention on a show or on a podcast and whatnot. The other one was on, like, I don't know, Good Morning America Today or something like that. Right? Like that they spent like a good 10, 15-minute segment on this topic. And that was like an extended discussion. I was like, wow.
Well, in our
Wow.
culture, which, and I guess in terms of what I'm talking about, our media culture, we're very much social media. You want to be young and attractive. You think about in terms of, because menopause denotes transition, a change, aging. I think in terms of sometimes people that get a extensive plastic surgery as they get older. Madonna, good
Sure.
experience.
Absolutely.
I mean, she's trying to
Stay young.
stay
Look young.
look
Stay
young.
viral. Yeah.
So, I think that's people they feel uncomfortable about this topic.
It's wildly uncomfortable. Okay, I can tell you our conversation the way it's been. We have so much to cover, and I'm not
Yeah.
want to try to rush this deal. So this is definitely going to be a part 1 and part 2. I mean, I
Okay.
figured that it was going
Thank
to be.
you.
Yeah, there's no way we're going to cover everything in one episode, right? Is that what you
Right.
meant,
John
John?
is
That's
looking
right.
at these 3 pages like,
There's 3
what?
pages.
All in one episode?
There's 3 pages. There's 3 pages, I say.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of the things towards the end, I didn't even really do prep notes. It was just the topic point of like, let's talk about this, let's talk about
Yeah.
that, because these are a part of what we need to get to. So let's get into like, okay, what is this thing? What is menopause and how does it progress? I hate to put you guys on the spot, but I am just curious to really put you on the spot to kind of demonstrate what is I suspect, a very normal lack of knowledge base about what this is even close to being. I'll let you completely veto. Just give me a head nod or not, and I'll go on.
I mean, like what we think it means.
What is it? How does this progress? What's your knowledge base about how
Like
this
what
is?
I know about menopause is that it's for a woman. It's when you stop having your period.
Okay.
And you get hot flashes.
So it's
Yeah.
a pause.
And
It's a pause.
It's a pause, menopause, right?
Stop.
I wonder if that's why they name it
but
that
like
way.
I don't know why it happens. I don't know. I really don't know the age that it's supposed to happen. Like I don't know any of that stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Interestingly, I've talked about with some of my clients about they're going through menopause, and there's a sense of loss sometimes. There's a sense, in one case, relief.
Oh, a
for
lot of
other
relief. My
relief-
period's
relief,
gone. I can't
yeah.
imagine as a guy how awesome that part is, right? Like,
There's also a sense, well, I'm not going to be able to carry children. Now,
Oh, absolutely.
part of that's been changed a little bit. You get some of the, as long as you have a womb, you're able to carry a child. But from your own self, your own genetic components, that would be impossible. So, I mean, it's just there's a sense of mourning that could happen.
Okay, so
if
you're
you
going
don't.
to like the emotional components of
Yeah,
what
bec-
people are
'cause
experiencing,
that's
what
part
you've
of our-
seen in your client. It was
yeah.
absolutely part of
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I'm like you, Victoria. Like, do we even know what the parameters are? Like, at what age? What's the process? How does this operate?
So the biological, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I actually had a client that went in early menopause,
Right.
and she was in her early 30s.
Oh
Like,
gosh!
what?
Don't tell me that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a thing. That's a thing. Okay, here's what I want to do, and we're going to mark the time. If either of you think that I've revealed too much or whatever, like I'm nervous about doing this, but I want to do it because it demonstrates a great example of what it is that creates manifestations of this, and it's an example of what I have come across in working with people. Okay, so if you feel that I've exposed too much, I'm going to do it confidentially, of course, but I just want to be super careful about it. And it's been years ago, like really like 7-8 years ago, that I was working with somebody, right? And it was a person that was referred mandatorily from an agency because they were getting weird questions, right? And the administrators were getting questions about like, well, why do people care about me? You know, why are they worried about me? I want people to leave me alone. And they're like, you know, wait a minute, what's going on here? I don't understand what your problem is. And so they sent her to get evaluated. I'm like, okay, so I meet with this woman, and I'm kind of like, okay, well, you know, what's going on? And she explains that scenario to me and doesn't understand why people are watching her. And it's like she's being spotlighted. Immediately, I'm thinking, what, John? Like, you know, social anxiety, right?
Right.
Right? I'm thinking some sort of... None of that. None of that's going on. I'm clinically ruling out things that would determine why she's this worked up and edgy. But as I'm doing that and I'm gaining rapport with her, she begins to share more with me to the point that she is experiencing people thinking they know what she's having for lunch before she tells anybody. A couple week or two progresses and she begins sharing with me that she thinks people are tracking her, watching her, cameras or whatever. She literally begins to share with me that she goes into places in the public feeling that the internet has been watching her, that they've tracked her as HIV positive, and that people are talking about her online. I'm like, wow. This is full-blown psychosis, right?
Yeah.
This is delusional
Delusional thinking.
psychosis.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, man. She's talking to me. We've really got a good rapport, and I don't know what's going on here. I really have no idea. And, you know, I really don't even remember what clued me in to thinking about this, because the only clinically significant thing I could really find was an experience with anxiety. Not the type that I originally thought, but anxiety. And this anxiety happened about a year prior. And I'm kind of like, that doesn't make clinical sense to me in a life cycle of a person, as you all know, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you should have anxiety kind of manifest earlier in your life or come at different points in your life, not just at this later stage in life, which was about 40-something middle-aged lady. And so what creates psychosis? I have no idea. Why did she get anxious a year before? I have no idea. The only other thing that was significant was being a bit of a loner. So she stayed in her own head, stayed in her own thoughts, didn't really relate to much of anybody. And that was consistent all throughout her life. But that was significant because she started to feel stuff. She got isolated by herself, and she had anxiety that was a new experience that percolated and grew and grew and grew and got to the point of psychosis. And I'll tell you what, man, I was shocked when I started to screen out symptoms of menopause. And I got online and I went, that one's yep, that yep, that yep, that yep. And I'm like, oh my God, we got a lot of yeps here. And I'm like, is this a midlife menopause experience? And then I Googled, John, online, can you be psychotic for menopause? And the answer was yes. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this? And then I talked to her about it. She identified what was going on. And she's like, I had no idea this is what I was experiencing, but it explains so much. 2-3 weeks after that, boom, no more delusions. Everything was de-escalated. She was feeling way better, accepting what's going on, and was telling me, I have no idea how I started to think all of those things that I was believing.
Crazy.
That is the
Yeah, that's
that is the way that I began to understand how massively menopause can affect.
So there's
a
also
person.
the hormonal changes that take place.
Yeah,
So that would have
Yeah.
contributed to that.
100%.
Yeah.
She was having things going on in her experience. Probably, as I've learned now, go to a doctor and say, "Oh no, it's not that. It's too early for that," and you feel
Downplaying and poop
minimized,
Yeah. That's the other
denied.
thing is.
Unfortunately,
Go ahead.
women doctors do that. Doctors of women do that a lot.
Yes.
And I mean, they probably do it for men too, but they do it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
They minimize like the things that you're experiencing and feeling.
Let me
Oh,
it's
foreshadow.
just in
Are
your
you
head.
saying women do that?
No,
with like
doctors
females.
of
yeah.
women.
Doctors,
Females.
gynecologists,
Female doctors of
gynecologists,
women.
but not just gynecologists. I mean,
urologists.
yeah, I mean all
Yeah.
kinds. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, here's what I have learned since, and that is that the average age of the medical moment for menopause is 52, and that is defined by the medical moment where you cross over 12 months without a menstrual cycle. Everything after that is postmenopause. Everything before that is pre or perimenopause.
Yeah,
Right?
But menopause can happen at earlier.
Okay,
Significantly
hold on a
earlier.
minute.
I'm
This
sorry.
is an average age. It's an average age, right? And then the reality of this is 7 to 8 years prior to the medical moment is a process that your body starts to go into. And that's a long, long time, right? Where you don't realize what's happening with all of these symptom sets. And
I
that's,
just-
John, where you say, yeah, you can begin to get into your 30s with some women that are earlier in that average, maybe say 45 or 47 is the medical moment of menopause. So that's 7 to 8 years prior to that. Now, as early as the early 30s, everything's weird. Also, hysterectomy is something that triggers this,
Oh, if you
And
have a
that's forced.
hysterectomy.
right?
Well, that would make
Right.
sense because you're literally removing your uterus.
But I submit to you that that's not necessarily the full experience of menopause, because even when you have a hysterectomy, you still have all the other hormone sets in your body the other organs are producing that are fine.
Yeah.
And that's not something we talk about. We talk about estrogen, progesterone, and for men, foreshadowing, we will talk about how there's a lot of parallels with men, by the way, too. It's just
Yeah.
dramatically different in pace of onset. But
I'm still
testosterone.
built like I was 40 years ago.
You are
Y'all are
not.
making me wish I could stay 29 forever.
You go and work out a
I'm
lot,
just-
buddy. You're my
I do.
hero in that regard. But I gotta push back on that. Can't be true. Can
No, it's not.
it? Okay, I just laid out a lot of factual
You did.
information and stuff. I mean, Victoria, how much of that is new? And like seriously,
Well, I
thinking
didn't know
about
the age. Like, I didn't know the average age. Honestly, I thought it was a little bit later in life, maybe. But yeah, I mean, that was pretty surprising.
So there's a lot.
Yeah.
John, I'm curious, even from your experience and whatnot, like how much of that sounds new or how much of that sounds like a review.
I think I did not know that 52 was the point.
The average age.
The average. I thought it was actually a little bit earlier than that, but all these symptoms of menopause, I've heard it and I've read it, being there, but I've not been through that experience.
I mean, the psychosis is definitely kind of eye-opening. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I know you can have, in rare instances, you can have like hallucinations from a UTI and things like that.
Yeah.
And
UTIs
which a
are
lot
bad.
of people probably don't know that. But I definitely did not think
But yeah.
a form of psychosis would be a symptom of menopause.
Well, what's funny is, and it's an interesting
Or a
little
side effect,
discrepancy
whatever
there,
you wanna call
kind of a side effect, a progression of what happens in your psyche and your mental health with anxiety and worry and fear and shame and feeling alone and all that kind of wraps up. I mean, we can get into a bad place with our mental health and not have any biological reason for it. I don't know that we could say that we see menopause creates mental illness to the point of psychosis, but the fear does, which is interesting, to become delusionally psychotic. And then I Googled, can you become By the way, remember I said in my little story, the vignette, I Googled, can you become psychotic with menopause? And the answer was yes. People have admitted to hospitals given medications like Haldol and Vist,
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
yes, John, and
Yeah.
to be discharged, and then like I need to get off this medication. It's terrible, and they ate almonds and got better. It was
Yeah.
like, what are we doing to women in treatment for this when mental health gets dramatically impacted? It's wrong. It's like we need to wake up. Listen to this symptoms list, right? Okay, clear my throat.
I've been everywhere, man. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Would you like one of us to read it?
Go for it, Victoria,
Okay.
because this is what I began to rule in and out with this lady that I was able to identify. Hit
Okay,
it.
here we go. Hot flashes, night sweats, irregular periods, mood swings, breast soreness, decreased libido, vaginal dryness, headaches, tingling extremities, burning mouth, changes in taste, fatigue, bloating, other digestive changes, joint pain, muscle tension and aches, electric shock sensations, itchiness, sleep disturbance, difficulty concentrating, memory lapse, thinning hair, brittle nails, weight gain, stress, incontinence, dizzy spells, allergies, osteoporosis, irregular heartbeat, body odor, irritability, depression, anxiety, and panic disorder.
Like the reality of this is like
Ugh,
this
I feel like
starts.
I need to take a breath.
I know. This starts like 7 to 8 years prior to getting into the menopause moment, which, by the way, we've got a YouTube comment that no cycles is glorious, because absolutely, I'm sure it must be. John, can you even imagine how cool that
No,
might
I've
be?
never been in that situation.
No, man, but women have told me like, oh, that's, this is not all bad, is the
Yeah.
point there.
Well, and I think
Right?
that a lot of times in society, it's interesting. It's funny that hot flashes is listed first, because I feel like that is what is associated
Right.
with menopause is the
Right.
hot flashes.
And guess
But-
what? That doesn't happen well into, hear me, that doesn't tend to happen until well into
Yeah.
the pre or perimenopause cycles,
But I
really.
can see also how a lot of these other things listed can be attributed to other things. And so then that way, like, menopause almost sometimes can be overlooked. And
Premenopause,
it's
perimenopause, yeah.
Because, like, some of this stuff you're like, okay, well, that can be because of your diet, or that can be because of weight gain, or that can be because of your whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. And, like,
I was thinking that too.
and it doesn't, and then I think sometimes it leads, because we don't ever want to, look up our symptoms on the internet. 'Cause
Yeah,
it
we wanna
leads
be
us to
careful
bad
about that, but
places,
Dr. Google.
Unfortunately,
WebMD or
Dr.
whatever.
Google might do a better job, though, than going to
Yeah.
a medical professional. And when you're younger, and experiencing the conglomerative of these symptom sets. Remember, I got clued into this because I had this lady telling me, oh, yeah, there's this and there's that and there's that. And she was experiencing most of these things.
Yeah.
Thinning of the hair and itchy skin and, tenderness. And she didn't understand why she wasn't seeing quite as well and thinking as clearly. It was like, what is going on? And, it can be and needs to be identified. Like in the show of the New York Times, Menopause Gets Its Moment, there was this lady that was describing really cool and vividly how, like, all moisture in her body had just basically begun to go away or evaporate. Her eyes were dry, her scalp was dry, her skin and cheeks, her nasals, her mouth, all the way down for the rest of her body, like all the moisture was gone, is what she
Yeah.
said. It was like, wow. And that was kind of unique. I'd never heard that before, which is part of the point to make here. You can have these things begin to start happening and feel alone and feel like there's something wrong with me, have that be denied and feel crazy. Like all of this stuff is, what's the title, John? Menopause. Normalized. All right, let me try that again. And
do it
what's the
again.
title, Victoria? Menopause.
Normalized.
Right. These things
But
are normal.
I was deep in thought,
Oh, that's
though.
okay.
Well, and I think
No.
that, and we might get to this later, so you can tell me if so. But I think listing out all this stuff is helpful and important, because then it gives us some insight as therapists when we're working with individuals and they start maybe listing a number of these symptoms, and that adds another thing for us to think about, like, oh, have you talked to your doctor about maybe like you're going through perimenopause or menopause or whatever, and
Because
then
it has massive mental health implications, and you're right. That's a
Yeah.
little bit of a teaser for our conversation down the road, either today or in part 2. John, what are you in deep thought about, brother?
Well, I was just thinking, I was going over this list, and I'm thinking, I must be going through menopause too, because
you have
go
a
ahead.
night sweat.
Perfect
no, a
segue.
lot of
Hot
this
flashes.
is hot. Well, yeah, itchiness, sleep disturbance. But as you get older, these things happen. So it's not just.
Yes.
It's also happens to males.
Yes,
to-
yes. Here's a whole segment
Bloating.
that I want to absolutely suggest to you is super important. Do men have menopause as well? And the answer is absolutely, John. What would you say?
Normalized. No. And andropause.
That was awesome.
Yes.
That was awesome. Wrong answer, wrong time. Come on,
Okay.
follow the bouncing ball. I know he did that on purpose, y'all, because he's brilliant. But yes, in a word, yes, we absolutely
Difficulty
do as well.
concentrating.
Here's the big difference, though. Okay, this is well-known science reality that for women, whenever your body trips into the premenopause phase, it's like a roller coaster that's been tick 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 up to the top of the hill. And then what happens in this roller coaster next, y'all?
It pauses.
Right at the top,
Yeah.
But
And
then it
then-
goes like straight down.
right? This is 7 to 8 years of process where for a woman, the changes are dramatic.
You know what?
Wait a minute.
Sorry.
For men, we go tick 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 tick, and we get up to that top, and there's that pause. And what happens for us? Do you know? It's
Do you
a
keep
So
going up?
slower.
It's a slow
Oh,
log ride,
Okay.
right?
And
A
it's
slow
down.
descent.
easier
It's a
to
it's a
take.
lazy river
Down back to the bottom.
down back to the bottom. Yes, seriously, massively different between women and getting slammed into this thing, and men go really nice and easy. Unfortunately,
Well, I
for-
don't know
for women.
if men, because we're missing that extra leg on the
Little chromosome?
that little chromosome, if we could take menopause,
If we could what?
if we could take it,
Oh,
we're not tough enough.
listen, I'm a dude, so
Yeah.
I can't claim this knowledge. I have no idea. I know they
Oh.
say we can't handle it. And you know what? Women out there, you're probably straight up right, Victoria. Okay? I have no argument here.
What I was gonna say earlier is and we don't have to talk about this right now or ever, but I wonder if there's a correlation between divorce rates and menopause.
Say again?
I wonder if there's a connection or correlation between divorce rates and menopause,
Oh, boy.
like an increase in divorce rates during menopause. Because I'm just thinking, if you're going 7 or 8 years of this buildup, like that's a lot to put up with. And then if you also have kids in the house or whatever, and you've got all your other crap going on in your
Aging
life,
parents.
yeah, that would just be. I don't know if that's even something worth looking into, or if there
No,
would
I
be a
think-
correlation. But I don't know. It just kind of popped into my head whenever you.
Well, as we're focusing on this,
as
yeah.
you're focusing on this 7 to 8 years, that is I mean,
It's a lot of distress.
well,
Well,
that's a lot of time
for an
to
extended
have to
period.
constantly remind your partner, "I'm really sorry. I'm going through perimenopause. I'm really
Well,
sorry."
Right.
I'm going
but
through,"
you're
like-
also guys are going through this with the spouse, and the guys are going through a middle age crisis.
Yeah.
And I think I read articles back in the 70s that were similar to this, and they talked about this, but they talked about midlife crisis. Not so much with women, but there's a sense that there was an increased amount of divorce, and this is usually when the children were grown and out of the house, and that would be in their 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I don't know.
I-
Just a
It's
food-
anecdotal.
food for thought.
I don't know that it's ever been studied, looked at, talked
Yeah.
about, and really examined.
Well,
That'd
I
be
think
another-
it
That'd
has.
be another doctorate.
It really would,
doctoral
John.
Dissertation.
Yeah.
It really would.
Yeah.
You know what I suspect you're going to find? A big hell yes. There's a
Probably.
correlation. Yes.
I don't know.
I see it manifesting.
Food for thought.
I really
Yeah.
see it manifesting. This is a lot of times what we see and experience happening now. I think I had it somewhere early on, a little bit later from now to say it, but it fits now to really very much understand this reality, though. This is a quote that I very much subscribe to, found it to be absolutely the case. To your point, Victoria, this is a men-caused problem. Okay, well,
mean-
all fun and games. Men would say, you're crazy and it's your fault, blah, blah, blah. Like, your menopause is causing a problem for me. No, 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 none of that, right? Like, the reality of this is, hear me clearly, from what I've seen, anecdotally working with many men and women in this issue, is that menopause doesn't create any issues. It's not causing any problems. This is a natural, beautiful process, arguably, in aging as we, John, age gracefully, right?
Yes.
However, any issues or challenges or problems that you may have internally, emotionally, or maritally, interactionally with other people, this magnifies it to a magnification of times 10, right? So it doesn't create any new problems, but it very much, to an order of 10 magnifies this stuff tremendously. So I think that's a cool phrase. It's not mine, but I think it's a absolute truism. Make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
So I think it's a big point. So back to the dude guys, though. Listen to this, and by the way, I've got a lot of, links and resources here with this show. This is one where you really will enjoy the show notes. To check out this, do a little, diving on things. We got the Mayo Clinic. I've got the Medical News Today. I've got different links that are really supporting this stuff. The NIH, from UK. That's where this actually comes from. The male menopause. Better explanation, more than most that I have seen. The symptom sets for this is, again, men somewhere in our 40s, early 40s, they say at age 40, we start losing 1% of testosterone production per year. That's what they've documented. 1% per year. That's how slow it is. For women, I don't know the percentage, but it's like
That's why I
20% a
take
year.
Testofen.
Yes, it is.
So-
What is Testofen?
I don't know. It's one of those.
Do you take hormones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You a dietary supplement.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We're coming to that
Some-
for sure, too.
Yeah.
And how we manage this. But listen
I
to
don't
this.
take it.
The UK article specifically cited for men. I thought this was interesting. And it gets back to your point, John. So the symptom sets for men, mood swings. Right?
Yeah.
This is men, y'all. This is not women. Okay? Mood swings, loss of muscle mass, reduced ability to exercise, fat redistribution, large belly, or quote unquote, right? Everyone talks about sometimes man boobs, a lack of enthusiasm or energy, difficulty sleeping, increased tiredness, poor concentration, short-term memory, and I wonder how many others per se. But that's the longest list I've seen when I've paid attention to this for the last 8 years. Right? John, how many of the female list of premenopause do men experience after a while? I could tell you my body temperature's changed, man.
Yeah.
Right? I could tell you that
My body temperature's gone down.
It has it?
Yeah.
Dude, I like run hot now. Victoria,
you
you make
do?
fun of me for the air conditioner. Look at her
He
face.
always
y'all.
has the air on. I'm freezing in here. I literally keep a sweatshirt in here.
Get a freaking heater, yo.
Yeah.
Get a freaking heater.
Well, I think there's a lot of these things that, like the brittle nails, weight gain,
Right.
Men, stress, incontinence.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
These are real realities that nobody wants to talk about. I'll tell you a quick little revelation. I'll be honest about this.
Irritability,
Huh?
irritability.
I don't have any of that.
Depression. Anxiety.
Neil, you cannot laugh at me, man. I just heard a grunt come from the producer,
I laughed
y'all.
for Neil.
Mood swings. So I think there's
Look at-
these with men too.
So I have had an experience on my right ankle. I'm mic'd up here, so I can't show you. But on my right ankle, there is a spot of skin that I found a few years ago. Again, now I'm at age 50, right? And this area of about 3 inches long ways and about 2 inches side to side, there is absolutely no hair there. And I'm like, what is that? I don't understand this. Have
You don't
ever
want to
heard of
look
this,
at my,
John?
Okay,
look at
please
my
do not
legs.
do not pull.
Look at my legs. I have no hair
What
on
the
my legs.
heck, man? Is it going to get worse? Are you
Yes.
telling me?
And somebody said, "Are you a biker?
Right.
You know, a swimmer?"
Right, right.
That's
You're like,
no.
wish.
I'm old. I'm old.
What the heck
Yeah.
is that? I'm like, and somebody tells me, well, that's your boot rubbing or
Uh-huh.
something like that. I'm like, you know what dawned on me? And I don't even know if any medical professional has confirmed this or if you can email me in and just give me a medical confirmation. I believe 100% that's because of my hormone changes. And there's no other reason why I would have this. And sure enough, Dr. Google, right? I Google it, and in some little obscure blog, somebody responded to the question, why do I have a hairless spot on my leg? Oh, yes, older men as we age get these spots from time to time on either leg, and it's normal. Okay. I didn't know this. It's weird changes related to our bodies, and that freaks people out, right? I'm so relieved, John, that I'm
and
not
it's
alone.
Because back to the thing, no one tells you.
Nobody.
Nobody tells you. Like you don't. I mean, I don't know. I'm not to that age yet, and so I'm not 100% sure if this is what a gynecologist would do. But as far as I know, it's not like I go to my gynecologist and she's telling me, okay, these are some symptoms that are associated with perimenopause. Here's like, let me know if you start experiencing these, or even like family
Right.
members. No one is saying,
Is
giving you a
literally
heads up
Nobody in your
about-
circles, Victoria, doing that. Like
I
seriously,
mean,
it's amazing
basically
to me.
the only one that people talk about for me is the hot flashes, night sweats, mood swings, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about, oh my gosh, my nails are so brittle, or
And the
I'm getting dizzy
dryness.
spells, or difficulty concentrating. I mean, I have ADHD. I have difficulty concentrating. Anyways, so like, have I been in perimenopause since I was like
No.
6?
No.
No.
I mean, I don't know. It's just,
Perimenopause since I was 6.
but I mean, I'm just saying, it's everyone talks about the big things. No one talks about changes in taste, fatigue, other digestive changes. Like those are the things that no one gives you the heads up. Because I mean, I don't know. They make it seem like hot flashes is something that everyone experiences,
Right. And that right?
And
That's not true.
Yeah,
That's
and
not
so
true.
and that's the thing, is that some people could be experiencing these other things, and then if I start experiencing them, then menopause may not even come to my brain
Right.
when I come of age,
And when you
or
begin to
whatever.
realize it. And I hope, honestly, Victoria, because of this conversation, being one of the first that you've had, that it will.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely having a conversation with my mom this weekend.
Yeah. We'll do part 2 is next week.
Yeah,
And
I'll
let's
update.
can we start out with that? Because I
sure.
would love to hear how those conversations went with people. We'll do a little experiment.
Yeah.
Sound cool? You game? You down
Yeah,
with it?
sure.
Okay. Because I think that's so important.
I will be your dissertation chairman.
Okay,
Okay.
you better approve it.
She's
Well.
gonna get a doctorate, like, bro, like
Really?
hook a
Yeah.
brother up over here,
An
man.
honorary doctorate.
How about me?
from
Can I
No,
have
no,
Dr.
it's
John
too late
Pope.
for you.
That's too. Dang.
Ouch.
Too late for me in a lot of
Andropause.
Yeah. There's no hope for me. I'm over the hill. That's what he's saying. Oh, so sad. Okay. Where do we want to go from here? I think I'll definitely going to get into our next segment about like neurology and how much we think we really know about this. And also, I think I want to do a little bit of a history about menopause, so that really part one has been like,
Informational.
yes. Part two, I think, is going to be application in life, because there's so many things about, like, what happens with fear-based feelings about menopause, what happens with shame and embarrassment, with menopause, what's the history of and the possible treatments for, right? How
So
does
the
this
culture-
affect marriage and culture? Yeah, John.
How culture kind of compounds people's, perhaps there may be a sense of guilt and shame.
There's a
and
lot
also-
of application here.
Right.
that people are struggling with. So that's what part two I want to focus on. So a little bit of history and a little bit about what we know about neurology. What would be interesting first?
History. Neurology.
Okay.
Neuro-
His-
I was thinking
I mean, you
history as
listen
well
to-
because it gives us a little bit of an insight about.
I mean, you list
when this
neurology
was.
first on our show notes.
Right, but go to section 6, Victoria, and honestly, those are the history points. I've never heard this stuff, but go ahead and go through the first there, and how
Which one?
we know a little bit about history.
Oh, 6.
A
Okay.
little bit about history.
Earliest known references of menopause have been very scarce. Aristotle referred to age at menopause being 40 years.
Wait, one I'd like to interject is
Go for
that it was a wandering uterus, that the uterus was supposed to be moving around throughout the body, and
Oh,
That's
Yeah.
what they believed.
that's what they believed.
Oh wow. Okay.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, a French physician coined the term menopause in 1821. Medical interest in menopause increased considerably in the mid 19th century. In 1930s, people started describing it as a deficiency disease.
Yeah.
Consequently, various replenishment therapies were advocated, i.e., testicular juice,
This is true. They did this.
crushed ovaries of animals.
Usually cows and goats and lambs.
In the 1970s, medicalization of menopause was complete. Menopausal symptoms were ascribed to estrogen deficiencies, and estrogen, the hormone replacement therapy, was extorted.
Exhorted.
Extorted. Sorry, I can't read today.
There was
As-
extortion involved, man. It was a crime. Get the public
As
involved.
an ultimate liberation of middle-aged women.
Right. So we really began to learn a little bit more in the 70s. But I was actually surprised, John, and you're going along
Which
with
is-
the cows and stuff. You knew that this has been an issue known kind of for that long? I was shocked by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which to
Yeah,
me,
it's-
in my brain, the 70s were really not that long ago.
Well, Ray, absolutely. As far
And
as
so-
medicalizing it
Yeah,
and studying
I mean,
it. Yeah. Where was
heck,
it
that's
before
after my parents were born. Like,
Yeah. After. Oh, my God.
sorry.
70s.
John's got a sigh.
But I mean, considerably, like in our history, the history of medicalization and medical discovery,
Medical knowledge.
and medical knowledge, 1970s is not that long. Like
like
that
yesterday.
is pretty
They
recent.
actually did xenografts of ovaries and testicles from animals into human subjects, to patients.
Yeah,
and they
I-
did
I-
that in the 1920s and 30s.
Yeah, I found some of that actually quite surprising because, I was putting two and two together when I thought about this stuff. And, we were talking about retirement, Craig and I, on this show early on when it's just he and I. And, he brought up some information he learned about retirement. And our retirement age was arbitrarily set during the New Deal time period in America at age 65. Prior to that, there wasn't a retirement age. But interestingly, people don't realize is that, the death rate, the expected life was ending at like 47, 53. Right? Like it was not very very long
When you ran out of your
in
teeth,
the 20s.
you did not have many years left. So, in other words, if you lost your teeth,
Okay.
you
Is this a wives'
serious-
tale or what?
No, this is physical health. Your oral health contributes to heart disease.
Well, sure, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what happens to animals when they get older. They eventually starve to death because they can't get the proper nutrition.
Because they
So
they get their teeth fall
right,
out.
and humans.
And that was the same for humans as well.
Yeah, same for humans.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I believe that. I guess I could see
I'm
that.
Cliff Clavin from
Cliff Clavin. Cliff Clavin is?
He was from Cheers. He was
Cheers.
the know-it-all postman.
Yeah.
Yes. Cliff is awesome.
Yes.
I love Cliff. I like to be Norm, though.
Yeah.
Norm!
Everybody wants to be Norm.
Yeah, actually, I like to be Fraser. No.
So, Norm,
Yeah.
normalized Norman.
Yeah, well, everyone wants their name to be called out when they walk into a bar.
You know what's funny? I loved
Victoria, long time no see.
I loved CC's because when you walk into CC's Pizza, hey, welcome to CC. Anyway,
Yes.
we do digress.
Some people might not know what that restaurant is. I'm
It's a
not
pizza
sure
place.
I know what it is.
What's a pizza place? The first
Well, they wouldn't know that overseas.
The first International Congress on Menopause was also organized in Paris, France in 1976. Various countries have formed national societies of menopause. Symptomology of menopause differs in different areas of the world. Example, in the West, hot flush. In Japan, shoulder pain. In India, low vision are the hallmarks. That's what they've highlighted, right?
See?
We've highlighted
that
hot
was-
flashes.
Culturally significant.
Right.
So
HTR use compared to the rate is high in the West, while is low and negligible in countries like
that's hormone replacement therapy.
India. Thank you. Age at menopause is also higher in the West as compared to the range of 45 to 47 years in developing countries like India. Historically, also, a lower age at menopause was range documented in earlier times. This rose to the range of 50 to 51 years in the medical era. Overall, women in Western countries view menopause negatively. This is contrasted with a positive outlook towards menopause in developing countries like India. They actually look at this in a positive freaking light.
That's crazy to me because
you-
I've not ever talked to anyone who is positive about menopause or perimenopause
Well,
or postmenopause or anything.
You think in terms of if you're in a developing country and you don't have birth control
Right.
and you have 10, 12, 15 children spaced apart, and of those half or a third may die, it's difficult. That's just something.
So you're saying that it can also be kind of comforting to know that you will no longer be able to bear children
or lose them.
or lose them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that we've got these awarenesses and these information is cited differently throughout the countries because we need a lot more awareness about it. Cass, I couldn't agree with you more on YouTube. She says the 60s and 70s had the pill. Women's health is still in its early phases. Now, I'm emphasizing the word early phases, but she goes on to say we can send a man to the moon. ...
And I would, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I agree with her wholeheartedly that we need to have this conversation.
They have, in over the past 60 years, when the birth control pills first came out, they had tremendous amount of hormones that were in it, and it would be one of the horrible side effects would be massive strokes in childbearing age women.
Ooh, say that again?
Massive strokes of childbearing age women.
In relationship to...
By taking birth control pills that had
okay.
very high.
I misheard you. I tuned out. Sorry.
Okay. That's it. Was
And
your
he's
turn.
talking about when they first came out, not currently.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, when they
Although,
Yep.
another side thing, when you get a pack of birth control, right? Pills, or
Okay.
whatever.
Never have, by the way.
Yeah. I would
Sorry.
hope not. But what comes with it is this very thick packet that unfolds about 18 times. and it has every side effect listed for birth control. And of course, it's in several different languages, but my husband about passed out when he saw it for the first time. He was like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "No." Like, so I mean, we're
Yeah.
Well,
so
and-
yes, but
and birth control tends to be for right or wrong, the responsibility of the female.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
because we
Men.
we just have condoms and
Pretty much.
yeah,
That's
or
it.
vasectomies.
Condoms or vasectomies.
Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be. That's because I had a vasectomy.
There we go.
I'm sorry. You're gonna have to cut that one out.
no, leave it
hell
in, leave it in.
no. That's got to stay. Let's end with a little segment here about something else that I love to rail on. And I've talked about this on the show before, but honestly, when it comes to understanding these issues with hormones, how much do you think we really know and understand, y'all, in the world of neurology?
If we're looking
And
at
psychology.
100%, I would say 60.
60 what?
60%.
Of what?
100%.
All the information there is to know about hormones, we know 60%.
We-
No, maybe.
Would you
Am
like
I
to
over
reevaluate that? Go
Maybe like-
down.
25?
I think we're
down.
with a billion years of evolution.
Yeah.
I think we know very little.
Oh, man.
Okay, we're talking
2%.
about.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say 0.01, but
2%.
okay, 2%.
We've gotten some intelligence in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Really.
We're doing precise neurosurgery with a big machete, basically. And I think we just
When it
don't
comes
know
to
enough.
hormones and treatment.
Hormones treatment, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's my quick little story. I've told this on the show before, but it's been a long time ago. I went to a conference. It was a neurology conference early on in my career. And I heard blah, 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 cerebellum, and limbic system, amygdala, okay, good stuff. Okay, that's neat. Never heard just stuff about the brain. And then I went to another neurology conference, same thing. Another one, same thing. I was like, okay, early on in my career, I'm done with this because it's all we talk about. I'm going to wait, And I literally waited about 10 years, y'all, plus maybe, and went to, all right, let's try out this neurology conference thing again. Guess what I heard about? I heard about the cerebellum. I heard about the frontal cortex. I heard about the amygdala. I heard about, and I'm like,
Hypothalamus.
okay, man, I get it. And I was getting really frustrated and pissed off towards the end of the beginning of the conference in the morning before lunch. And so I'm usually stand up and exercise and walk around and stretch because I like to tune in and stay tuned in. And so I'm standing up in the back of the room. We're getting towards lunch. And I raise my hand, right? And I'm like, listen, I would like to understand, and maybe you'll get to this in the afternoon, what the what the connections are between what you're talking about with the cerebellum and the neurons and the functioning here with what we see in our office with mental health and behavior, and sort of how can we correlate the chemical compounds to what it is that we behave and how we act. And he's like, well, I'm not sure what you mean there. And I said, well, I hear about the cerebellum and the different pieces of the brain and what they do, and I understand that, but I'm really interested in the details and what we've learned in the last several years about direct correlations between this compound and this chemical and what we operate. Like testosterone does this, or like estrogen does that, right? And he's like, oh, I'm not really sure. Maybe you need to see me at the break and we'll talk. I was like, no. I was like, wait a minute. Let me try one more time, right?
You were making yourself obnoxious.
Well, no, I wasn't being
Let him finish.
I wasn't being obnoxious, John. I was asking a question he couldn't answer, and that's what I got to.
Yeah.
Because what I did is I said, okay, well, do we know, can you tell me how many hormones we have in our body? Yeah. And the guy was like, oh, no, I couldn't begin to tell you that. And the whole room groaned. They were like, oh, wow, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a simple question you would think that we can answer. But he went on to describe, oh, no, I couldn't begin to tell you that because we have, and I forget numbers in my brain so well, it's my own learning disability. I think he said thousands. Maybe he said
Yeah.
hundreds. I don't know, John, do you think we have thousands of hormones? I think it's hundreds.
I think
it's hundreds. But so we have hundreds of hormones that are in our body, this guy said. And then he said there's hundreds of subsets of each hormone.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
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 And that was like, how do you understand subset progesterone 223 mixing with subset melatonin 453 mixing with testosterone?
It's
subset
alchemy.
10.
Yeah.
What is alchemy, John? Go.
Well, alchemy is just that it's like they're trying to change lead into gold, for example. That's what the old alchemist would do back in the Renaissance or late Middle Ages, and you get this. So it's not quite science yet.
No, and then you mix in the importance of zinc and iron and the functions of neurons, gabapentin and
Neurotransmission.
the neurotransmitters. This is all a massively complicated emotional system that we're trying to intervene with when we talk about men changing in midlife very slowly and women changing with hormones rapidly through menopause. Unfortunately, we've learned a lot, but we don't know the massive amount.
So women who go through menopause are going down the five diamond trail, the black diamond trails, and men are going down the bunny slope.
Okay, that's a good metaphor. I love
Okay.
that.
Uh-huh.
What do you take from his metaphor, Victoria? Do you know what a black diamond trail is?
Yeah, it's a tough one or whatever.
You sound very upset. What
I
is
don't
that?
know.
She's
I'm over it. I feel like I'm having a hot flash right now.
That's because the aircon's off right now.
It's because the air hates us
So
here.
it's gotten warm in the room, and she's like fanning herself and just got irritable. What happened, Victoria? I'm concerned.
I don't know. It's just, to me, I think there just needs to be more. It needs to just be talked about more. The realities of it and the things that you can experience. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, and that's part of what we're doing here today. And I think that I get frustrated with neurology when we've kind of highlight the amount that we don't know about it. But there's a lot that we have known about it. We're going to continue talking, and we're going to get into a little bit of what about the fear of menopause? What about the shame impacts of menopause? What about, the treatments and a little bit more thoughts about that and how this does interact with marriage, I wonder. You're right, Victoria. How this, male and men deal with this issue socially, which probably is horrible on our part. And really, what are the mental health complications? I alluded to this with my vignette when I went through. I mean, I think that we have a great conversation next time that sets up ending with the idea of how is this a wonderfully positive experience?
Well, the West doesn't look at it positively.
They're right.
Yeah.
They see this as a great transition and to wisdom. And so, like, I'm really curious about that and why we can't have that attitude about this. Why does it have to be so tormenting and to the point where somebody is compelled to hide this from anybody else and internalize this and become delusionally psychotic as a result? That's not what we want.
2 words. Hot flashes.
Are you having them?
I'm hot flashes.
See, on the YouTube, you'll see Victoria's like fanning herself, like I can't breathe.
My
Is it
cheeks
that-
were probably. I'm
is it
hot.
that hot in here?
Yeah, I am.
I don't think it's that hot. See, you want me to turn the air conditioner on?
I do now. Well, that's because it's set to where it automatically goes to 78 degrees
yeah,
at a certain time at night after everybody leaves.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure us putting it down before we start this thing doesn't do anything because I'm pretty sure while we're in this room, it bumps itself back to 78 degrees.
All right, closing thoughts, comments, y'all. What are you thinking? How did we take some mystery out of this thing?
I definitely am leaving today with more knowledge than I had at the beginning of this recording.
Yeah.
But more questions.
But also more questions.
Mm.
And I'm excited to talk to my mom.
Yeah,
And
that's
her
cool.
friends. Yeah.
What, and her friends?
Yeah.
That's
I'm
cool.
going to try to.
Tell me about the excitement.
Well, I just think that we don't really talk about it. Like, honestly, I mean, I'm like, right now, I'm pretty sure my mom has been through menopause, but honestly, I don't know because we don't talk about it.
Can I give you an interesting thing? I'm curious if you find this, and I don't know how old they are. Doesn't really matter. But okay. I am curious what you guys will say about this. I'm glad this came up. Bless you, Mom. I love you to death. I talked to her about this, and she looked at me, and she says, "Oh, Christopher," that's what she calls me, Christopher. She says, "Oh, Christopher, I don't, I just don't think I went through that. I just skipped it. It didn't affect me. That's right. Yeah, I don't know." And I'm like,
BS.
yeah, I'm calling a big fat BS. I saw her go through moments of time and some major changes. I mean, there were rage moments.
She basically had reinterpretation of past events.
Right.
Yeah, she reconstructed it
Right?
and gave
Like
herself
she never
good
went through
memories.
it at all.
Yes. And I really am
gosh.
fascinated about how that might
Yeah.
happen. That we kind of, John, you could talk about that in a psychological sense, that we do that psychologically, right?
Right.
Go, because I can't do that well.
No, I think what we do is when we have past events and they're overall negative events, we kind of, as a part of our protection for our own mental health, we reinterpret it and we reframe it, and we hopefully, we would put a positive spin. The negative aspect of it is that we kind of downplay the difficulties that one encountered going through that.
Right. We can minimize and deny and be
Right.
very insensitive about things. But it's interesting. I think there's a lot of this. If you were to take a poll of elderly women 65 and above, let's go further, 70 and above, and I'm willing to bet, not related to dementia or memory problems, but there would be a high percentage of women that would say, "Oh, this didn't affect me
Right.
at all." That's what they would say. And that just isn't biologically
But
possible.
I almost wonder if they say that because they're not fully aware of the symptoms that
That
they
too.
could be
Yeah.
experiencing. So they may
That
have
too.
experienced all these other things, not the hot flashes or the main stuff, but the dryness, the whatever, and they just thought, oh, and then it went away. So then they were like, oh, I guess it's nothing.
Right.
And then they come on the other side of it and they're like, oh, well, I guess I wasn't really hit by perimenopause. And you're like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, maybe,
Well,
maybe I should ask the husbands and the
but you
wives.
know, it's
the producer, John.
interesting.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Okay. The interesting evolutionary, speaking, I guess, is that your menopause, you still have half your life. For many women, live much longer than men. And
Only
I'm
for
thinking,
the last 40 years, John.
yeah, but
Well, maybe 50, 60 years.
right, but that is the people that would be taking care of. It's not just the mothers taking care of children; it's grandmothers that are also taking care of children in the past. And I'm just wondering if that may be part of it, is that there's not a competition. Anyway, I'm going off on the deep end, but I'm thinking that there's survival reasons why we have a long period postmenopausal.
Interesting.
To raise children, to help with the raising of children,
From a grandparent's
and to
perspective.
teach skills. Yeah, from grandparents. Yeah.
Well,
Interesting.
I guess the
never thought about
pushback
it
that
like
I have
yeah.
with that, John, is we that's not really been the case in the history of man, though.
Mm-hmm.
In the history of man and woman, the life expectancy was just not that far. So
Yeah.
what?
Maybe
Well,
there's
this
something
is it. The people that lived to their 60s and their 70s, there were much fewer of them. But if you were going to make it past childhood and young adulthood, you're likely to live to be 40, 50, and 60. It's when you get to 53 average lifespan span was because you all died when you were like 5 or 4 or 3 in childhood. Yeah, or childbirth.
So you're
And so-
saying that's because that's the fills in the average of the life expectancy?
Yeah, so
you
in other-
question some of that data?
I do.
Interesting.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Oh shit.
Think about it.
I'm
mean-
curious about that.
Yeah.
What you upset
I'm
Victoria?
just saying,
that
no,
I said
I purposely didn't say
a
the
bad
BS
word? Did I just say
earlier,
shit?
and you just went and said it.
Man, right here at the end. Listen, in John's word, you learned a lot, Victoria, and we have a lot more questions, which is
Yeah.
what happens with conversations. I want to take the mystery out of menopause. I want to normalize menopause. I want to trigger discussions and conversations and understandings so that we don't have some of the backlash that affects women and men in our societies. That is the main goal that I have a passion for, because I see the massive effects of mental health in my office regularly, and that's really, really important, everyone. So this is a great conversation. We're going to have part 2. We're going to talk about some of the applications of this knowledge that you've gained a little bit, because there's a lot of life applications with all of this. Closing thoughts, comments, guys?
Nope.
No,
Okay.
I'm on this
good.
adventure with you guys.
All right, it is quite the journey. We'll continue this journey together, the human emotional experience, which we will endeavor to figure out together, guys. Stay well, take care, and we'll see you next week with part 2, Menopause Normalized.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.